The story begins with a young man with white hair who was sleeping deeply when he suddenly felt as if his soul was separating from his body. He woke up startled, believing he had died. Looking at his own hands, he noticed that the calluses were gone, and they looked exactly as they had 10 years earlier. He recognized the university dormitory, identical to how it had been back then. Picking up his smartphone, he saw his reflection on the camera and realized there were no scars on his face. He understood that he had been reborn one day before the apocalypse began. Memories quickly flooded back. He had become the 10th god of war in the Nation of Dragons and had been invited by 2 other gods of war from the neutral camp to celebrate his achievement. During their meeting, a zombie king suddenly appeared. In the battle against this enemy, the 2 gods betrayed him, helping the zombie king kill him. After the attack, a woman approached, congratulating him on his achievement and mentioning a gift from the Li family. He didn't understand the reason behind such an act. Yao Jinghan had secretly struck a deal with the Li family, and even a legendary seal was blocking him. She was considered the beauty of the school, and instead of choosing another genius, she had become his girlfriend. What he didn't know was that everything had been orchestrated by the young master of the Li family, who intended to use his skills to expand the family's territory before discarding him. The Li family was one of the 3 great powers of Dragon City, and he had paid a heavy price to survive. For 10 years, he was hunted by them, unable to take revenge because Yao Jinghan was protected by the Li family's influence. Now, reborn before the apocalypse, she was still his girlfriend, and he saw an opportunity for revenge. He received a message from her saying she would be giving a reflection class for children and couldn't celebrate his birthday, but he knew she was actually with the Li family's young master. In his previous life, he had received a video as a birthday gift. This time, he decided to invite her to meet him at the desert warehouse behind the school, claiming he had a surprise for her. He also remembered that Li Haobo had hated him, a truth he only discovered near death. Now, with a new chance, he would not allow the tragedy to repeat. When he stepped outside his room, he saw the reddish sky, a sign that the apocalypse was near. He knew that at 7 o'clock, the apocalypse game would invade reality, turning the world into a massive game. He reached the warehouse, where he had arranged to meet Yao Jinghan. She was there, in a hurry to leave for her class, while he kept a fake smile on his face. Then he grabbed her by the neck, remembering everything he had done for her and mentally recounting all the sacrifices. She appeared frightened, confused by his accusations, but he kept going over the money spent and the hotels visited. She realized that everything he mentioned had been with Li Haobo, not with him. He took her smartphone and confirmed her conversations with Li Haobo. Yao Jinghan's eyes widened, not understanding how he had discovered everything. He then mentally replayed the messages, laughing at the situation. Raising her arm, he declared she would reflect on it in hell and stabbed her with a knife. After the act, he lost himself in memories of 10 years of suffering, laughing hysterically as tears rolled down his face. He felt relieved for finally taking his revenge, yet he knew it wasn't enough. He still had to deal with Li Haobo, who was hiding in the mansion, and with the entire Li family. At that moment, the system panel appeared, showing that he had successfully renewed and activated the Apocalypse game cheat system. He looked at his smartphone, intrigued, since he knew the game's salvation would only come in the 7th season, and they were still in the 6th. He had never heard of such a system before. It had the power to break the data of the Apocalypse game and offer its host a better experience. Once the bond was completed, he was given the opportunity to draw his first super cheat. After activating the cheat system, the young man gained an absolute drop rate. Now, whenever he killed a zombie, he would obtain 100% of the items dropped. Shocked by the panel's information, he wasn't sure if the cheat was reliable, but thinking about the power now in his hands, he believed he could finally destroy the Li family, even though they were one of the 3 great families of Dragon City. With many soldiers and secret techniques that enhanced their members' physical abilities, now he saw a real opportunity to face them. Still, he didn't fully understand Li Haobo's hatred from his past life, suspecting it was tied to his long-dead father. His original plan was to kill Li Haobo first, then hide and slowly grow stronger, but with the cheat, he could accelerate the process. Leaving the warehouse, he went to a hotel. He booked a room, bought bottles of water, and 5 loaves of bread to prepare, since he still didn't know if the system was trustworthy, and decided to secure food first. He paid and requested technique number 3, recalling that in his previous life, this technique had become the zombie boss of the area. Back then, he only managed to defeat it too late, but this time he needed to kill it earlier to claim the reward, grow stronger quickly, and confirm if the system was real. Soon, technique number 3 appeared. He noticed something odd and thought she needed a bath, sensing the distinctive zombie stench on her. He knew that before the game officially began, signs would appear in some people. When she was distracted, he struck with the knife just as she started to transform. Without hesitation, he opened the door and delivered a single slash, enough to kill her. Immediately, the system welcomed him to the Apocalypse game. The game had begun and could no longer be stopped. The rules were clear. Zombies had acute hearing but blurred vision, able to see only moving objects. The cruel apocalypse had begun. 80% of the human population had turned into zombies, while the remaining 20% had to to endure the thrilling game of survival without a second chance. The first rule stated that killing zombies or mutant beasts granted experience and attributes. The second rule stated that there was a chance to drop equipment, items, and resources, though small and dependent on luck. The protagonist earned the title of First Blood for killing the first zombie in the game, receiving a boost to his attributes. The title also doubled the damage of his first attack after midnight, an extremely valuable effect. The prestige and gold earned would be crucial later, since certain equipment required prestige to use. Checking the zombie woman's drop, he found a meditation necklace, a bronze rank item, and rejoiced. It confirmed his 100% drop rate. Still, he knew he had to use the system cautiously. He decided to begin leveling up from the hotel, since there were many rooms to clear. Hearing a noise, he opened a door and encountered a zombie who had been a manual laborer in life, thus retaining greater physical strength than a normal zombie. He dodged swiftly and struck with his knife, needing 2 cuts to bring it down. Dissatisfied, he realized he needed to improve. Searching its belongings, he discovered it had worked in repairs. He continued exploring until he reached room 206. Opening the door, he saw something unexpected. 2 zombies together. It reminded him this was a love hotel. Embarrassed, he hesitated, and one of the zombies lunged at him. Barely escaping, he grabbed the hammer he had found and smashed the enemy's head, finishing with a knife strike. Feeling the presence of the second zombie behind him, he quickly struck again. Slowly, he accumulated gold this way. 2 treasure chests appeared before him, filling him with excitement. In his previous life, he had needed to kill 100 zombies just to get a single bottle of water, but now he realized his luck was truly remarkable. He obtained an item called the Eye of Probing, a single-use tool that could detect movement within a 10-meter radius. While examining it, the hotel owner appeared, annoyed by the noise, and tried to attack him, as if blaming everything on him. The protagonist dodged swiftly, ready to retaliate. The man who tried to strike Luo quickly became terrified upon realizing he was armed. The protagonist chose not to waste time with him. There were too many zombies to kill. He eliminated him swiftly and went on to clear the remaining rooms. It felt as though he were handling the hotel's maintenance tasks, dealing with beds and plumbing issues while hunting enemies. In one room, he found an agile zombie that gave him some trouble. Still, he enjoyed the fight, kicking the creature before stabbing it with his knife. He received a potion as a drop. Later, he discovered room 201 vacant and decided to rest for a while. He was just short of enough XP to reach level 3, but he didn't like seeing that only a few minutes remained before 8 o'clock. He knew he had to kill 6 zombies in 20 minutes to level up. While rushing to solve this problem, he saw a sign indicating that there were 3 techniques to perform services in the place. He didn't understand right away, but soon realized he had already eliminated 2 of them, leaving only 1 left. Since zombies were attracted to sound, he decided to strike the hammer to make noise. He walked through an empty part of the hotel until he heard a sound coming from the ground. On the stairs, he saw a zombie climbing up. He knocked it down, causing it to fall onto another zombie behind it. Quickly, he killed them both, but noticed his knife was already getting dull, and he urgently needed a better weapon. That's when something caught his attention. To his surprise, he obtained the horizontal sword of the Tang dynasty, a weapon with strong attributes that would give him a great boost, especially since he no longer had any weapons in good condition. With only 10 minutes left, he went upstairs and saw several zombies outside. They began rushing toward him, but since they weren't very smart on the first day, they injured themselves trying to reach him. As soon as they regrouped, he cut them all down with the katana. Testing the weapon, he realized its excellent quality and finally reached level 3, earning 1 attribute point. He felt very happy for leveling up and was surprised to also gain a skill book. The clock struck 8 and he quickly retreated as a very strong zombie appeared. He knew that as the night went on, monsters' attributes would increase, making them harder to deal with. Before the enemy reached its peak power, he decided to eliminate it. His sword got stuck in the zombie's body, forcing him to grab the hammer to finish the fight. He recovered the weapon, but the seemingly dead zombie startled him when it tried to attack again. With a precise slash to the neck, Luo finally defeated it. He thought that without the experience from his previous life and perfect timing, he might not have managed to defeat all those zombies. Since he had made a lot of noise, he started cleaning up quickly to avoid attracting more creatures. Using the Eye of Probing, he searched for items and found the Night Ring, an artifact that granted camouflage during the night. He then decided to analyze the skill book. He knew that even level 60 or 70 players only had basic proficiency in skills. The person known as the God of Skill possessed just 25 abilities and was considered the greatest expert in the world. In his previous life, Luo had surpassed 99% of players by gathering 10 different skills. Hoping for a good start, he opened the skill book. He received the Boomerang Strike technique, a warrior-type skill that allowed him to throw his weapon, dealing 120% of his strength attribute as damage. This ability combined range, throwing, automatic return, and multi-stage damage. The cooldown was long but would decrease as his intelligence intelligence increased. He immediately learned the skill and eager thought about testing it. However, hunger won out, and he decided to eat first. While eating, he reflected that to take his revenge, he couldn't follow the same path as in his previous life, or he would fail again. He began writing down everything he knew about how the game worked. He knew that every time a warrior leveled up, their strength increased, and he wanted to use this advantage to build a new, faster, and safer path toward ultimate revenge. Each time a mage leveled up, they gained one attribute point in mind and another in agility. However, what really made the difference were hidden professions. They had a 1 in 100 chance of appearing, and even common first-tier professions were already difficult to obtain. In his past life, the protagonist had managed to acquire one of these rarities, and in this new life, armed with prior knowledge, he believed he could obtain it more easily. Hidden professions were considered high level, and only 1% of players worldwide could unlock them. Upon reaching level 10, players could unlock the profession system and begin specific quests. These missions were extremely dangerous, but offered unparalleled rewards. Among them, the Phantom was one of the most feared. With extreme speed and high single-target damage, it was the perfect specialization for assassins. In his past life, the protagonist survived thanks to activating this hidden profession, which many considered the first step toward becoming either a god of war or a god of magic. Thinking of the future, he believed the Phantom could be essential. He noticed he still had 5 unassigned attribute points and invested them all into strength. He tried to remember where he had encountered the Paladin Knight, as this might be important later on. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Li Haobo was furious, smashing everything around him. He believed his plan had been ruined because of Yao Jinghan. He wanted to know where she had gone and grew even more irritated because his preparation materials were incomplete. Without them, he couldn't deal with Luo as he wished. He hated the fact that the apocalypse game had started right then. His butler tried to calm him, warning that many guards had been killed or injured. With zombies becoming increasingly dangerous, they might not survive much longer. The butler seemed conflicted, as if trying to understand both sides of the situation. With the apocalypse underway, he believed that if the young master's impulsive personality didn't change, the boy would suffer greatly. Hao had heard from his father that the mercenary hunting squad was on its way. Now his only desire was to find Yao Jinghan, alive or dead, so that he could see her standing beside Luo and make the young man taste despair. The butler believed the mercenaries had been trained since youth to be death soldiers at Hao's service, and would certainly carry out his every order. Meanwhile, the protagonist continued his path, but soon encountered more zombies ahead. He quickly killed 3 of them, and received as rewards a set of clothes, a bowl of chicken rice, and a precision watch. Soon after, the system informed him that he had obtained a new attribute item. It was an equipment enhancement scroll, a bronze rank item. Luo was satisfied to finally get something useful, and used the scroll to upgrade his katana. With that, he gained another attribute point, which he once again invested in strength. Among the items he obtained was also the hidden mask, a bronze rank equipment that allowed him to conceal his nickname, level, and basic information for 30 minutes. The item could be used twice a day. He equipped the mask immediately, and afterward felt tired. Deciding it was best to rest for a while, he decided that if he could reach level 5 before nightfall, he wouldn't need to waste time searching for dungeons. That was because apocalypse game dungeons were an efficient way to gain experience, resources, equipment, and items. A player only needed to find one of the portals scattered throughout the city, enter the waiting room, and choose the desired dungeon. In addition, there were individual dungeons, hidden and offering much greater rewards than normal ones. That's why Luo thought that after a short rest he could visit Lishi village. He bought a padlock that secured a gate and broke it to enter. He found blood inside and was attacked by a zombie that tried to ambush him. He killed it quickly, but soon another zombie smashed through the door with its hands, making noise. Without wasting time, the protagonist eliminated that one too. Then he found a portrait of the people who had lived there. He wasn't moved, as for him, they were just more victims of the apocalypse, and he couldn't afford to sympathize with each one. There was plenty of food in the system, so he decided to eat right there. Now he was on Pingshan Road, and he knew that if he headed east during the afternoon, he would probably reach a new point of interest. He was only a bit of experience, short of reaching level 5, and planned to kill zombies along the way to achieve it. However, while eating, he heard a noise and realized he had let his guard down. 3 people were outside, debating whether the young man was still inside. They smelled the food and concluded that Luo had a special card that made food appear. One of the girls in the group thought it was wrong to take something from another person, but the boys tried to convince her that they would just ask politely, and if he refused, then they would resort to confrontation. Jikaiji explained to his sister that the blonde man had broken into their house by smashing the door, so he should be considered a thief. What had happened earlier was that their parents had turned into zombies, and in panic, they had fled in desperation, going without food since the previous day. However, before they could do anything, Luo, the protagonist, rushed forward and attacked the blonde man with full force. The sister screamed desperately, trying to stop him, but it was useless. Luo knew he needed to conserve energy but couldn't allow the noise to attract more zombies to the area. For that reason, he swung his katana and eliminated the two with ease. To him, if someone was willing to steal in the middle of an apocalypse, that person had to be prepared to die. From his perspective, those deaths weren't cruel because he killed them quickly, avoiding unnecessary suffering. He even believed the government should reward him for doing a good job as a citizen. While walking through the ruined streets, he was called out by a stranger, a woman asking for help, but he simply ignored her and kept going, focused on the items he had collected. The woman became furious and shouted that he was nothing but trash, bragging that she had more than 30,000 fans. Irritated at being ignored by a masked man, she grabbed a flower pot and threw it near him to get his attention. She tried once more to convince him, saying there were many zombies nearby and she was scared. She promised she would do anything in return if he saved her, believing he would fall to his knees begging for a favor. Luo didn't care and instead took a piece of raw meat soaked in zombie virus liquid and tossed it toward the woman's house. This piece of meat acted as a special lure, capable of strongly attracting zombies. The woman, unaware of the danger, thought he was mocking her by giving her food instead of help. She only wanted to escape to a safe place. But because of the lure, a horde of zombies quickly appeared at her house, and she was killed without any chance to react. That was merely the first lesson Luo wanted to teach to anyone living in this new world. The lesson was that people needed to understand their own limits and never trust strangers, for the old laws no longer existed, and the apocalypse demanded survival above all else. After walking through the deserted streets, Luo arrived at the central gymnasium of Modu, exactly the place he wanted to reach. 2 hours remained before nightfall, and he thought that time would be enough for what he planned. He believed there was a silver-ranked wild chest inside the gym. In the game called Apocalypse, special elements appeared in notable places in the city, such as dungeons, robots, hidden merchants, or treasure chests. Wild chests spawned in random locations and could be opened by any player. Boss chests, however, required the defeat of a powerful enemy and, while offering better rewards, were much harder to obtain. Silver chests always guaranteed at least one silver-ranked piece of equipment. Upon entering the gym, the system detected his presence and activated a mission requiring him to defeat 100 enemies alone. Luo assessed the size of the place and thought about using his mask to ignore the zombies, quickly open the chest and leave. But with the mission active, he hesitated, wondering if failure or refusal would bring any penalty. However, the cheat system he used was designed to provide a good gaming experience, so no penalty would be applied even if he failed or refused. As encouragement, the system would give him 100 gold coins as a consolation reward. Faced with this, Luo decided to break the lock at the entrance and face as many zombies as he could. After a few precise strikes, he defeated the first zombie. He thought to himself that this guy could never have imagined he'd end up as a zombie playing basketball. During the fight, one of the zombies dropped a rare item, a flash grenade that, when activated, emitted an intense white light, temporarily blinding enemies. Luo thought it would be useful later, especially when he reached Shy Village, where he could use it as an area attack. Soon after, he found the gym's master key, meaning he would no longer need to force doors open and could avoid making unnecessary noise that might attract regular zombies. The gym still had several zombies scattered around, and Luo decided to approach quietly to assess the situation. He counted at least 17 zombies in the area. Even though they were similar to normal zombies, killing them all at once would require maximum effort from any ordinary person. But Luo trusted his skills and knew he could defeat them. The entrance to the ping pong room was locked, and the noises on the other side seemed distant, meaning the zombies hadn't noticed him yet. He knew that if he could eliminate 2 zombies right then, he would reach level 5. So he began to think about a strategy to defeat the other 15 efficiently. Spotting a zombie nearby, Luo didn't waste time and cut it down with a quick, precise strike. Luo's attack triggered a chain reaction of fury among several zombies at once, as they had heard the sounds of combat. Numerous undead began charging toward him. To handle the situation, Luo preferred to slash his enemies' legs to reduce their mobility. Moving with astonishing speed, he targeted strategic points to knock down or kill each zombie. After eliminating several foes, he finally reached level 5 and decided to invest his attribute point in agility. While standing on a table, a zombie tried to attack him, but Luo quickly shoved it away. A young man wearing a red headband was watching everything from a distance, thinking he had run into great misfortune. Through a crack in a wall, he saw the outlines of the creatures being defeated and realized the enemies were zombies. Noticing that Luo had many resources to handle the situation, the observer decided to wait until the protagonist died so he could loot his belongings. However, he lingered too long. He began to think about attracting more zombies to the gym to speed up the protagonist's death. Luo heard a loud noise and grew concerned, as the sound was attracting zombies from outside. Soon he heard the door being slammed violently and wondered how long it would hold. He decided that once he finished off the enemies, he would leave the place. 3 zombies lunged at him simultaneously. With a nimble roll, he dodged them and, in a single motion, pierced through them with his sword as if skewering meat on a spit. One zombie dropped an energy potion that instantly restored part of his strength. Luo drank the potion without hesitation and hurled his katana at another zombie, which, upon dying, dropped a chest. Inside the chest, he found a thorn bracelet that increased his mind attribute by 1 and granted a skill to unleash thorn attacks, summoning a vertical row of blades from the ground to deliver heavy strikes. The ability could only be used once every 24 hours, but Luo was surprised by its power. When he put on the bracelet, more zombies appeared, and he saw the chance to test it. He leapt into the air and activated the ability. A massive spike shot up from the ground, piercing the creatures at multiple points. He realized that this technique was extremely destructive, perhaps even stronger than a level 20 magic spell. When a zombie tried to attack him from behind, Luo jumped again, and the spike spread across the floor, striking several at once. Among the remains of his enemies, he managed to obtain 2 Eyes of Probing, the Boots of the Wind, and a short-range launcher. He was satisfied with the rewards. Upon inspecting the items, he discovered that the launcher could hurl objects within a maximum range of 30 meters. The boots reduced the sound of footsteps, increased strength and agility, and added 20% to movement speed. Luo found them incredible, since normal players couldn't achieve those attributes without changing professions. He decided to put on the boots, certain that once he changed his profession, his stats would be even greater than those of others at the same level. With several zombies ahead, he loaded contaminated meat, used as bait, into the short-range launcher and fired it far away to gain some space. Then he activated the ability from his boots, which granted him great speed for a few seconds. This allowed him to slip out of the creature's line of sight. He knew that in about an hour night would fall and things would become far more dangerous. He didn't want to bother with missions at that moment and preferred to find a place to rest and think about the next day. He tried to open a locked door and then remembered the master key. He didn't understand why the door was shut, since the apocalypse had started at 7 and the gym still wasn't blocked off. He only hoped that the people inside weren't doing something foolish. As he entered, he was caught off guard by a man pressing a blade to his neck, demanding to know who he was and how he had obtained the infirmary key. Luo thought the guy was clever, but had messed with the wrong person. He quickly tore the blade out of the red-banded man's hand, injured his arm, and stuffed a cloth into his mouth to muffle any sound. The light soon came on, revealing several people inside. The protagonist kept control and eliminated the man without hesitation, leaving everyone in shock. With a cold demeanor, he told them not to worry, insisting that he was a good person. No one dared to argue. Luo tried to explain to those in the infirmary that he had only reacted because he was attacked first, and that as long as no one did anything against him, nothing bad would happen. A doctor there agreed with him. She believed the red-banded man had deserved what happened and reinforced her opinion to the others, who ended up agreeing. Luo then sat down and asked them to deal with the body and clean the blood off the floor. The group began cleaning while he looked at the doctor, feeling like he had seen her before. Her name was Ye Shui, level 0 with no title. Luo immediately remembered her from his past life. At a certain point in the future, he had met her amidst the chaos when she had awakened a hidden profession. She was known as God's doctor, and at that time he had been gravely wounded, willing to do anything to receive treatment. He vividly recalled her saying that his scar involved his very soul, and therefore could not be healed. During that period, whenever he was gravely injured, he sought her help. Even though the doctor profession was valued in the future, Ye Shui had been just a fragile piece in a dangerous world, and lacking sufficient strength, she risked dying at the hands of others. In the present, everyone had been struck by the apocalypse. But Ye Shui seemed very different from the woman he had once known. Luo found it strange how fate could be so surprising. In just 2 days of apocalypse, he had already run into people he had met in another life. Now in that infirmary, there was a doctor, a nurse, and a maintenance worker. Suddenly, a loud noise came from outside, and the infirmary door began to splinter. Wasting no time, Luo checked the time, quickly pulled out several food cards from his inventory, and began eating. Ye Shui grew curious and asked if she could also obtain that kind of food. At that moment, she had fallen right into his trap. Luo made it clear it was simple. She only needed to help him with something. Despite her concerns, Ye Shui asked what it was. Luo explained that he needed the medicines listed on a piece of paper. She and the nurse could gather them and pack them for him. Ye Shui took the paper and said they could find the medicines immediately. Luo also needed some materials and asked the repairman to work through the night. He explained that he would be leaving at 6 in the morning and would provide food proportional to their effort. He also offered tools as an incentive. After that, he went to rest. He knew his plans couldn't stop. On the system panel, he saw that he had already defeated 45 of the 100 zombies required by the mission. The next day, he woke up and went to the group. Everyone was exhausted after working all night. Luo distributed the food cards as promised, and all were grateful. Ye Shui had been sure he would kill everyone and run off with the resources. She had even devised an escape plan. However, upon seeing that he kept his word, her opinion began to change. She no longer thought he was as ruthless as she had imagined. Before he left, she asked how they could use the food cards. Luo grew frustrated, realizing he had forgotten that no one there knew how to use the system. In the apocalypse, there was no beginner's guide, and even he had taken days to learn how to access the inventory. He decided to teach them all how to use it as repayment. Afterward, he thought he should give Ye Shui a reminder. She had helped him greatly in his past life, and maintaining a good relationship with her now could prove very useful in the future. By then it was noon, and he thought it was time to leave. Looking out the window, he believed he could now wipe out all the remaining zombies in the gym. He asked Ye Shui not to lose track of time. Though she was worried about the zombies outside, she listened, but Luo thought she should focus on taking care of herself. Leaving the infirmary, he began killing every zombie he found along the way. However, he decided to move more silently to avoid drawing more enemies, so he started grappling zombies in ways that kept their death sounds from alerting the others. After taking down several, he entered the gym's restroom. There, he found a zombie who looked as if it had been urinating. Suddenly, it rushed at Luo, but with its pants down, it tripped and fell before reaching him. It was the most ridiculous death a zombie had suffered in that story. The gym had an extremely low survival rate. The people who had frequented the place had good physical conditioning, and after becoming zombies, their stats had increased even more. For ordinary players, those zombies were like impossible monsters to face. Luo continued exploring and found the women's restroom. At first, he felt a bit awkward, but quickly pushed it aside, understanding that the apocalypse had destroyed all old rules. He needed to focus on what really mattered. Upon entering, he found two zombies inside. He slipped on a can, but still managed to strike both at once, skewering them with his sword as if making a barbecue skewer. But when he saw their faces, he realized who they were. Luo immediately recognized the two zombies he had just eliminated. In his past life, they had been known as the zombie couple, the first to be discovered in that very gym. They had never left and were known for possessing unusually high tactical awareness. Their strength was second only to the zombie kings, and if fighting together, they could even challenge the god of war or the king himself. Luo never imagined they would meet such an unfortunate fate in this life, as now they were dead on the third day of the apocalypse, defeated by him almost by accident. One of their bodies dropped an item called a casting crystal, capable of fusing two bronze-rank pieces of equipment of the same type into a new one. It was a valuable resource. Soon after, a strong light began shining inside one of the restrooms. Investigating, Luo found a bronze chest. This chest was different, requiring 30 seconds of waiting before it could be opened. When the time was up, he received a physique fruit, a rare item that permanently increased that attribute by 2 points. Without hesitation, he ate it and was surprised at its pleasant taste, far better than most apocalypse food. After consuming it, his physique rose by 2 points, and he felt invigorated. He decided to continue the hunt. Several zombies sensed his presence and charged at him. He defeated them all efficiently, and among the fallen, one dropped the lion bracelet. The accessory increased strength by 1 point and physique by 1 point, while also granting a useful intimidation effect in direct confrontations. Luo kept exploring until he found an area with many corpses scattered around. He knew that common zombies weren't capable of creating such a scene. At most, they could bite or attack humans to turn them. Only two types of enemies could cause such devastation. The first was the zombie boss, much stronger than normal ones and known to devour humans as food. Even without humans nearby, they were known to consume their own kind to satisfy hunger. The second type was the mutant beast. Mutation chances were low, but the stronger the animal, the greater the probability of zombification. Small creatures like mosquitoes had odds of 1 in millions, yet the possibility still existed. Zombified creatures preferred human brains, but also attacked other zombies when encountered. Luo then noticed a body with strange claw marks. The wounds suggested the attack of a feline zombie. A chill ran down his spine, for he hated zombified cats. These monsters had extremely sharp senses and always knew when he was near. Now he had to figure out whether the enemy was preparing an ambush or would strike directly. He knew he'd only have the advantage if he managed to find the creature first. Without warning, the zombie cat lunged at him. Luo managed to dodge by sheer luck. He quickly realized this was no ordinary cat. Besides its sharp claws, it was a bronze-rank boss. Since the apocalypse was still in its early days, any creature of that level was considered a boss, and this one in particular possessed outstanding talents. Its strength and agility were far superior to Luo's, making it worthy of the boss title in the apocalypse game. Luo analyzed the creature's attributes and concluded that he could use his combat experience to win. At the same time, the system triggered a special mission to eliminate the zombie cat boss. The description explained that the animal had often roamed the gym's third floor before the apocalypse, where several people fed it daily. After the outbreak, the cat was bitten, infected, and began killing without hesitation. The mission offered a large amount of prestige and gold, with a 24-hour time limit for completion. Faced with this, Luo began to doubt whether he was still playing the same apocalypse game from his past life. He remembered how, back then, he had often been deceived by missions that looked easy but carried severe penalties even if declined. Rewards were usually low, and every task required large teams to accomplish. Facing a bronze-rank boss in the first days was nearly impossible for ordinary players. Now, reality seemed different. The mission offered great rewards and no punishment. Luo considered this a very good sign. Watching the cat, he noticed the monster was relaxed. From experience, he knew the best strategy was to provoke the boss into making the first move. So, he sat down on the floor and started reading a comic on his smartphone, acting as if he wasn't concerned at all. The provocation worked. The cat grew enraged and charged. Luo, with sharp reflexes, narrowly dodged, drew his sword, and tried to spot an opening in the enemy's defenses. To make matters worse, the zombie cat began to speak. It told Luo that he was a clever human and that it hadn't expected him to predict its movement with such precision. Immediately after, it tried to strike again, catching Luo off guard. Even surprised, Luo reacted quickly, cutting off the creature's claws as if performing an ordinary pet grooming service. The feline was furious, considering this act unforgivable. Taking advantage of its rage, Luo provoked it further. Consumed by fury, the zombified cat activated its special ability, Cat's Eye Gate. This technique transported Luo into an illusion created by the monster's mind. However, after surviving 10 years of apocalypse, Luo had seen everything and believed no mere illusion could possibly frighten him. He dismissed the ability as weak and insignificant, causing the boss cat's technique to fail completely. Realizing it couldn't win, the cat tried to flee, but Luo had no intention of letting it escape. He grabbed his sword and hurled it with precision, striking the monster with a single fatal blow. With the death of the bronze-rank zombie boss, which was at level 9, Luo advanced to level 7 and gained 1 attribute point. In addition, for being the first player to kill a boss of that rank, he earned an exclusive title. A global announcement was triggered, and many people began discussing the achievement. Some were upset that Yahello had earned yet another title, while many wondered who this player really was. A red-haired girl found it impressive and declared she wanted to marry him. Others preferred to remain discreet, avoiding public announcements to keep a low profile. Meanwhile, a man quietly drinking wine observed calmly, concluding that the name Yahello had strong ties to the mythology of Dragon City. He believed that if someone so skilled joined them, their chances of surviving the apocalypse would rise considerably. With the announcement over, Luo thought it would attract too much attention and decided to wear something to cover his face from now on. He sat in a chair and sighed. He knew the zombie cat's stats had far exceeded his own, and although he had relied on his combat experience to win, defeating a boss without injury was still a remarkable feat. The system displayed that his storage capacity had increased, along with more gold and prestige earned. He made a few exchanges in his inventory and upgraded his attributes, confident that if the cat revived, he could defeat it easily. Half an hour later, he went to check the chest left by the zombie boss. Inside, he found an item called Zombie Cat's Horn. Whoever blew the horn could summon a zombified cat to fight alongside them for 30 minutes. Luo thought it was excellent, and then headed to another part of the gym, where he knew a silver chest was hidden. Upon entering, he noticed the cat had made a terrible mess. Eyes were scattered everywhere, as if the creature had been collecting them. Searching the place, Luo eventually found the silver chest. Opening it, he obtained several valuable items: a white-wing cloak, a skill book, and an item that expanded his inventory space. He considered himself extremely lucky. He opened the silver book immediately and learned a new skill called Explosive Double Strike. It was a warrior-type technique that allowed him to attack twice in instant succession. Though difficult to master, he knew this was exactly the kind of skill he needed and felt confident about using it. The white-wing cloak granted him the ability to glide, which left him pleasantly surprised. He put it on quickly and liked the result. After the battle against the zombie cat boss, his power had increased considerably in a short time. At first, Luo's plan had been to kill Li Haobo, but now he considered that goal too small. His new desire was to wipe out the entire Li family and send them all to hell. Before that, he decided to finish the mission of killing 100 zombies, which was still active. With the new gliding ability, he began attacking zombies with ease, soaring above and striking targets with precision. He wanted to test his new technique, so he activated Explosive Double Strike. The attack instantly killed a zombie, surprising Luo with his own strength. Immediately afterward, a powerful explosion erupted, blasting him away with the force of the impact. The damage was significant, as the zombie he had chosen for the test had 30% more stats than the others. Yet it still died before the explosion even triggered. The skill's speed was comparable to the boomerang slash technique, but its final effect was even better. After finishing off the remaining zombies, Luo finally completed the mission of defeating 100 enemies. He sat down to rest and access the system, where he discovered he had received an item called Blood Absorption Ring. This ring allowed him to recover energy when dealing damage to enemies during combat. Though excited about the new equipment, he began to worry about still not having obtained a good cheat. The system panel then revealed that even the most common cheats offered practical effects that could greatly aid the host. With this in mind, he decided to activate the cheat draw and received a level 1 auto-collect cheat. This cheat allowed all dropped items within a half cubic meter radius items to be automatically gathered into his inventory. However, he still had to consider the limitations of his inventory space. He was overjoyed to know that now he could fight zombies directly, and all items would go straight into his bag without needing to stop and pick them up. In his past experience, he had feared the high drop rate would cause trouble, but now that worry no longer existed. Still, he wondered why the cheat was only level 1. The system explained that if he obtained the same cheat again in the future, its level would increase, its range would expand, and even extra effects could be unlocked. He then crossed an area full of zombies and began eliminating them with ease. The auto-collect cheat worked perfectly, with various items being stored automatically. The system even helped organize everything for him, as the number of acquired objects was overwhelming. Because of this, he even forgot to check the time. Hours passed quickly, and he realized he couldn't stop to eat. He needed to head immediately to the Li family village. Meanwhile, in another place, young Li Haobo was enjoying himself in his mansion with a few women. When the appointed time came, he suddenly struck one of them in the face, furious that his men still hadn't managed to capture 2 specific people. He couldn't understand why it was taking so long to complete such a simple task. The butler tried to explain that Modu University was overrun with zombies, making it difficult to locate anyone. But Li Haobo was sick of excuses involving zombies and frustrated by his inability to level up in the game. He believed that progressing within the system was the only way to overcome his physical limitations, to the point that he ordered his own bodyguards to weaken enemies so he could deliver the finishing blow and claim all the experience. Suddenly, Rong entered the mansion. Still enraged, Li Haobo asked if they had found the woman who betrayed him and the orphan boy, referring to the protagonist. Rong reported that they had found the girl, but not the boy, and insisted that Li Haobo needed to see with his own eyes that she had hidden so well. Then Rong presented a bloodstained bag and revealed that she was dead. The news left Li Haobo completely shocked. According to Rong's findings, the girl's body was discovered inside a large barrel in the school's storage area. Nearby, they also found men's clothing stained with blood. Before dying, the girl had suffered terribly. Her injuries were concentrated on the body's most sensitive areas, where the pain nerves are most active. Rong explained that the killer clearly knew acupuncture techniques from the Dragon Country. Every cut was precise, each one targeting muscles in ways meant to crush them at strategic points. Just imagining it made Li Haobo feel sick. For Rong, the culprit was probably the greatest assassin in the world, and perhaps an enemy of the girl. He also suspected that the same assassin might now be targeting Li Haobo. Trying to hide his fear, Li Haobo downplayed the girl's importance, claiming she was nothing special and that the incident only happened because of some fool. At that moment, Luo came to mind, but he refused to believe the protagonist could be capable of something so brutal. He had even prepared a trap for Luo but never sent it, so Luo didn't even know the girl had betrayed him. Rong then asked if Luo might be the son of Lin Jian. In Rong's analysis, Luo couldn't have acted alone. No assassin, not even the best in the world, could have pulled off something like that without assistance. To him, the enemy was far more dangerous than they imagined. These words unsettled Li Haobo even more. He had believed Rong and his men to be the best in the nation, renowned mercenaries and specialists. Yet faced with this risk, he ordered Rong to go to the mountain and bring in additional reinforcements, making it clear he didn't want to die. He was truly terrified. Rong reassured him, saying he was there to protect him, even if it cost his own life. Meanwhile, Luo was hidden in the forest. He had already killed several level 8 zombies, far faster than expected, and realized he no longer needed to challenge dungeons to keep progressing. Now, very close to Li Haobo's mansion, he decided the time had come to collect all debts from that arrogant playboy. He quickly climbed a nearby tree and observed the estate. The mansion was heavily guarded, with patrols and heavily armed men everywhere. But Luo knew every secret of that place. He located a hidden button on the ground, pressed it, and revealed a staircase descending into the underground. His plan was simple: leave the passage open for Li Haobo to attempt escape. Once his enemy was consumed by hope, Luo would strike and kill him at that exact moment. This strategy was one of the most renowned in the Dragon Country, and Luo wanted to test if Li Haobo could defend himself even while surrounded by so many guards. He noticed that the men present belonged to a mercenary hunter guild, an old enemy from his past life. Still, he had never studied the Li family's defenses so closely before. Now, as he analyzed their formation, he saw that despite being well structured, it contained a small flaw. That was when he was surprised to spot Rongzhan on sight. Rongzhan was one of the Dragon Country's war gods. Before the apocalypse, he had led a mercenary guild that operated in war-torn regions for many years. Under the Li family's command, he had specialized in close combat. In Luo's past life, Rongzhan had been one of his greatest tormentors. After countless failures by subordinates to capture him, Rong personally pursued Luo, cornering him into desperate situations again and again. He was without question the most dangerous enemy Luo had ever faced, but he also carried a stain of shame. Despite all his hunts, he had never succeeded in capturing Luo, breaking his own record record and tarnishing his title. For Luo, this reunion felt like destiny itself. Acting swiftly and with luck, Luo prepared himself. Rong had sensed something odd and was scanning the area warily. Luo was certain that in this battle, Rong would die, weakening the Li family and increasing his own chances of victory. He donned his hidden mask and positioned himself ahead of the enemy, observing a conversation between Rong and one of the guards. As the two walked together, Luo knew he couldn't let the chance slip away. Rong, for his part, sensed a strange presence and ordered tighter patrols and heightened defenses, determined to protect the Li family at all costs. At midnight, Li Haobo wondered if he could finally sleep. With so many zombies outside, he doubted anyone would dare invade the mansion to kill him. Rong, however, believed they were under threat right then and there. The young master was restless and bored. To entertain himself, he thought of playing with a zombie, a choice that worried Rong. Even so, Rong ordered a subordinate to bring in the zombie they had captured earlier that day. It was a strong specimen, bound in chains to ensure the young master's safety. Li Haobo then commanded that several girls be placed inside a cage. With cruelty, he began ringing a bell, terrifying the women, and ordered his guards to shove the zombie toward them. One of the younger guards tried to argue that this was far too cruel. Furious, Li Haobo believed the rookie was trying to dictate his actions. He immediately ordered one of the stronger bodyguards to beat the young man. To Rong's surprise, the rookie managed to defend himself. The stronger guard felt humiliated for being weaker and swore to make the boy pay with his life. He called two others to help him. The trio approached, taunting the rookie while two of them held his arms as the first pummeled his face with punches. Li Haobo ordered them not to kill him, since he wanted the boy alive to witness the women's deaths. To intensify the torment, they forced the rookie's face against the cage bars while unleashing the zombie inside. The monster attacked the women mercilessly. The young man cried and trembled as he watched the horror unfold. Soon after, the guards released him, leaving him hollow and broken after witnessing such cruelty. The young master then ordered that the boy himself be thrown into the cage to see if he was strong enough to face the zombie. The guards obeyed, eager to flatter Li Haobo. They tossed the visibly shaken rookie into the cage, where the zombie was already making a bloody mess. Smelling fresh flesh, the monster seemed even more eager to strike. Inside the cage, the young man thought of his mother, who prayed daily for his safety. Pain filled his chest as he realized he might never return home to care for her. But he couldn't accept death, nor could he abandon his mother. Summoning his last strength, he stood up and punched the zombie in the face. He tried to wrestle it to the ground, but was struck in the back before he could. Li Haobo watched, finding the scene entertaining. Despite his injury, the rookie didn't give up. With one last powerful punch, he killed the zombie outright. Bleeding heavily and sobbing on the ground, he silently apologized to his mother for not being strong enough. The bodyguards were divided. Some thought he deserved it, while many believed the cruelty had gone too far. Outside, the protagonist was watching everything. He knew these people weren't being treated as humans, but as cannon fodder. One of the guards spotted him and called him by his false name, Adi, asking when he had become so strong. The protagonist, who was already handling several at once, concluded that revealing secrets too soon in such a hostile world would be foolish. Soon after, he encountered one of the subordinates, running off and killed him immediately. However, before dying, the man managed to release a signal flare into the sky. Luo reacted instantly, throwing his sword to intercept it before it exploded, making it fall harmlessly to the ground. By sheer luck, he knew every detail of the Li family's stockpiles from his past life, which made his current operation much smoother. The host's path of vengeance had begun. The system panel issued a new mission stating that night he would become a Reaper, the god of death, tasked with wiping out every life in the Li family's village. The deadline was 12 hours. Luo thought it was perfect to have an official mission to complement his revenge and still be rewarded for it. Upon accepting, the system activated the vengeance barrier. If any of the remaining 269 people tried to escape, he would immediately know the fugitive's location. According to the system, that barrier could make the victim suffer until death. Luo remembered that this feature had been used for the first time in the war between the Dragon Country and Japan, leaving the enemy desperate. Now he would have the opportunity to test the item's effectiveness. Meanwhile, Rong's subordinates were gathered. One of them had accidentally killed the last girl. At that moment, they heard a dark voice asking if they didn't want to play with him. Zhang stood up alert. He had never seen anyone capable of exuding such a murderous aura even before appearing. His own presence seemed insignificant compared to that energy. Li Haobo was frightened and was sure that person had come to kill him. The butler tried to calm him, saying that the group of mercenaries was there and that Rong would not allow anything to happen. Rong, however, recognized the danger. He knew that, to have reached there, the intruder must have defeated all the guards outside. Even if they weren't elite, each could handle 10 ordinary men. Rong wondered whether that being was human or some kind of god. Luo then presented himself as human, but mentally declared he would be the reaper of all those souls. Rong ordered his men to search the area. At that moment, a flash grenade landed on the ground. Everyone was temporarily blinded. The protagonist took advantage of the moment to launch his thorn attack, destroying several enemies while they were defenseless. Without wasting time, he also used his boomerang strike to hit the survivors. Rong tried to locate him, but Luo moved too fast and threw another flash grenade. Now Rong couldn't see the enemy and had lost another group of subordinates. He asked how many men remained. A subordinate replied that, besides the young master, Rong and Zhao, there were 66 people left, but 10 were seriously wounded and others had not yet regained their sight. The young master of the Li family was furious. He wanted to know who was responsible for that, because that person had destroyed all his plans. He ordered Rong to take revenge, not believing that a single man could kill 100 of them alone. Rong then asked the butler Zhao to take the young master and the skinny monkey through the secret passage and have the others stay outside to try to stop the killer. The protagonist heard everything happening on the other side of the wall and did not expect to discover that the butler was a true specialist. As he had imagined, the enemies split their forces, leaving half to escort Li Haobo to safety while the rest stayed to fight. The protagonist decided to deal with those who stayed first, believing he could get out of the situation unscathed. He opened the system and began checking the basic information about Ranjan and Zhao, calmly analyzing before acting. He then quickly summoned the zombified cat, his main secret weapon. Without hesitation, he threw a dagger at the chandelier and made it crash from the ceiling. The impact caused confusion, and he used the opportunity to employ his boomerang attack ability, striking multiple enemies at once with precise movements. The zombified cat also leapt into the battle and viciously destroyed several men. In the end, only Rong remained standing. He was in shock at what he had just witnessed. The protagonist wore a mask to hide his identity, and Rong couldn't discover any information about him, which made him even more disturbed. Even surrounded by other subordinates, the protagonist noticed that all of them had weak skills, low attributes, and little combat experience. He concluded that reality was far below expectations, and that the greater the expectation, the greater the disappointment. Resolved, he began to attack without mercy, dropping several men at once and advancing straight toward Rong. Upon seeing him approach, Rong began to tremble violently and soon knelt on the ground, completely overcome by fear. Meanwhile, the cat chased Li Haobo and the others being escorted, ensuring they couldn't escape. Luo observed everything calmly and hoped the mercenary leader would react somehow, but he seemed paralyzed, unable even to think about fighting. The protagonist began to taunt Rong, asking several questions and mocking his weakness. Before his eyes, all of Rong's trusted men were killed. All those years of work were destroyed in a few minutes, and even his will to resist was slowly broken. For Luo, this was the most satisfying moment of his revenge. Rong only wanted to know who the masked man was, because he felt that if he died without finding out, he would die with deep regret. For Luo, that was precisely the ideal death for someone like him. Without hesitation, he plunged the knife into Rong's neck, ending the life of one of the most troublesome enemies he had faced in his past life. In that previous life, he still clearly remembered Rong's face when the man stepped on his head and called him an ant, trash, a useless orphan. Rong had taken away his self-confidence and tried to crush his will. He had even challenged the Li family's authority, as Rong himself had mocked at the time. Seeing Rong die that way, filled with remorse, was a personal victory that Luo savored with pleasure. Now that Rong was dead, the Li family became even weaker, and Luo believed that dealing with the rest in the future would be much easier. Meanwhile, Li Haobo still wondered whether they would be chased to where they were hiding. Zhao tried to calm him and reassure the young master, but both were deeply startled when they saw a silhouette of a person forming on the wall, appearing suddenly and unexpectedly. Li Baoho was in complete despair because he believed that mysterious man had been sent by Linzi Luo. In his mind, that meant his death was near. Butler Zhao tried to calm his young master by saying there was still a part of the secret passage and that it was impossible for anyone to find them in that hidden place. The young man didn't understand how Luo had discovered him in Jinghan, and also didn't know how Luo had managed to hire such a powerful assassin. Zhao suspected it might be some trump card left by Lin Jian for his son, but he soon dismissed the idea because when Lin Jian was killed, his whole family was also eliminated by the Li family. According to him, there was no way Lin Jian could have left something prepared for his son's future. At that time, if it weren't for the family head's insistence on sparing at least one descendant, Linzi Luo would also have been killed. Meanwhile, the protagonist was hidden behind the wall listening to the whole conversation. When he understood everything, he spoke aloud, revealing his presence. Li Haobo immediately recognized the voice and wondered how he had found that secret place. Luo replied that he had been their true target for a long time and that he finally understood everything. Li Haobo was surprised to see Luo in front of him and remembered that he had already tried to kill him before, hiring people to finish him. But Luo was more interested in understanding who Lin Jian was and what he meant by that story of eliminating the entire Lin family. At that moment, Li Haobo began to laugh. He called Luo an orphan and found it amusing that the boy knew his own father's name. To him, Luo deserved everything he was living through. He then recounted that when his father was about to be promoted, Luo's father, named Lin Jian, had filed a report against the Li family's plans, which almost messed everything up. For that reason, the Lin family had to be exterminated. If it hadn't been for the family head's direct order, Luo would also have been killed back then. Li Haobo still wanted to know who Luo's mysterious assistant was and thought he seemed very strong. But to the protagonist, that mattered little. He declared that he would finish off the entire Li family anyway. Li Haobo laughed at the idea and said it was an impossible dream. At that moment, Luo kicked the door down and entered wearing a mask and holding a knife. He looked like a character from a horror movie. Zhao tried to protect his young master and moved to attack Luo, but the protagonists dodged easily. Suddenly, as part of an ambush, the zombified cat appeared. It was exactly the moment Luo had calculated, 30 minutes after the summoning. The plan worked as expected. Luo then took off his mask and revealed his face. The butler was shocked to recognize him. They finally understood that he was the one responsible for everything. Li Haobo's eyes widened in shock. Zhao couldn't believe that Luo had managed to invade the family's village and kill Rong. Luo remarked that the butler looked clever enough to survive the apocalypse, but warned that when the 7-day newbie protection period ended, even years of martial arts training would prove useless against a common zombie. He said the two didn't need to worry because he was more than enough to kill them. Then he tried to strike Zhao, who managed to block the blow. Luo realized the butler was really strong, and that if that strike had been aimed at Rong Jun, Rong would already be defeated. Since things had reached that point, Luo decided he couldn't waste any more time and needed to finish everything right then and there. But Zhao still had a hidden card. Like a true martial arts master, he flexed his muscles and grew much stronger. Luo reacted quickly, grabbed his katana and tried to cut Zhao. The butler complained, finding weapon use despicable, but Luo didn't care. To him, in the middle of an apocalypse, it made no sense to wait for justice. He activated the explosive double strike ability and managed to nick the old man's arm. Zhao didn't want to fall so easily. He had trained for more than 50 years. However, suddenly the spot where he had been cut began to explode. Without giving the enemy time to recover, Luo advanced again with the sword and struck Zhao with full force. He needed to kill him to feel safe. The old man fell to the ground, dead. Luo found it a pity because many people still believed that fights in the apocalypse would follow the same rules as before. But that situation showed that strength alone wasn't enough. One had to understand the environment well, adapt to the new reality, and act with precision. After that, he looked at Li Haobo, who was sprawled on the floor. Without hesitation, he drove his sword into the enemy's leg, who began to scream in pain. Luo did this to make sure he wasn't pretending to be dead. Li Haobo began begging for help and said his father would never leave Luo in peace and that he would be hunted for the rest of his life. Luo picked up a dull knife. He knew that the duller the blade, the harder it would be to cause pain. He tried to hurt the enemy but couldn't cut, so he decided to destroy the boy's psyche by saying that even with a dull knife he couldn't cause pain. After that, he applied more force and finally managed to wound him. That knife had accompanied the protagonist for a long time. It had been 10 years living in hiding and fighting between life and death, so he thought it sad that the young master of the Li family wouldn't feel even 1% of the pain he carried. Li Haobo didn't understand what he meant by 10 years because for him everything had started only 3 years earlier when he learned of Luo's past and began mistreating him, so he couldn't comprehend the depth of the enemy's suffering. Without wasting time, the protagonist drove the knife into the boy's arm. For him, every strike represented a piece of his joy. The young master begged him to stop, but the protagonist made it clear he did it for the entire Lin family. Even without ever having known anyone from his bloodline, he believed a son needed to avenge his father, and nothing else mattered. He kept striking because he found pleasure in it. Soon after, he decided to change methods and picked up a centralizing pair of forceps. Li Haobo began to tremble, recognizing the tool. The protagonist then forced the enemy's mouth open with the forceps and said he was grateful to the young master for creating that cruel method. It was a form of torture he himself had used to kill many in the past. Now, Luo thought his talent for hurting others deserved even praise. Li Haobo couldn't accept that the boy knew something he had never told anyone, but soon the protagonist pulled out one of his teeth and even sneered, asking if he was getting weak. In his past life, that same boy had invented countless methods to cause pain and had killed many people using them. What Luo was doing now didn't even come close to that. Even so, he was starting to lose interest in continuing to hurt the enemy. He thought it a shame that the methods Li Haobo had researched couldn't be used on him personally. Still, he decided to continue just a little longer. When the boy finally collapsed to the floor, the protagonist realized he had underestimated the enemy. He thought the boy had been faking it and decided to finish everything using the explosive double strike. The blade embedded in the enemy's neck caused a violent explosion, but the protagonist was prepared. He opened an umbrella to shield himself from the blood spray. While watching the Li family's village at night, he thought the place wasn't so bad. After that, the system confirmed he had received the talent called Heart of Vengeance. Talent and ability are different things. Abilities can be learned from specific books, but talents are rare and only appear when several conditions are met. Heart of Vengeance allows the user to gain more power when fighting their enemies. When he recognizes someone as an enemy, his attributes automatically increase. He found it incredible that this talent could boost core attributes by up to 20% and considered it a valuable growth talent. Shortly after, the system asked if he wanted to perform the draw for the new cheat as a mission reward. He accepted without hesitation. The draw then gave him a small magic wand, an item exclusive to mage-type professions. This wand increased magic damage and also the casting speed of spells. Although it had no immediate use for him, he knew he could sell it later for a good price when the shop was unlocked. In the Apocalypse game, when someone dies, their inventory disappears and others cannot pick up the items directly. The only way is to loot the corpse to see if anything useful remains. This caused many players to prefer not to kill their opponents, especially after understanding how the death system worked. It was a measure put in place by the game itself to avoid incentivizing indiscriminate killing. During the loot, the protagonist found an item called the Purification Necklace. This necklace could immediately remove negative effects like petrification, dizziness, and blindness. Even though he thought his current meditation-focused necklace was more useful in certain situations, he recognized the new item's value in direct combat. After storing the items, he opened the mission chest and did another draw. This time, the cheat he received was called Absolute Enslavement. With it, he could turn any zombie weaker than him into a loyal servant. That surprised him a lot, because in his past life, he had never heard of anything like it. Knowing that a zombie could be completely obedient and faithful opened many possibilities. He began to imagine a future where he wouldn't have to do all the dirty, exhausting work alone. Since he had discovered Yao Jinghan's betrayal, he had decided to isolate himself and act cautiously. But now he felt that maybe he could trust someone, even if they were undead. He even thought that the presence of a loyal zombie might heal some of the wounds left in his heart. And there was more. The cheat could be upgraded, allowing him to enslave an even greater number of zombies. He even imagined being carried by a crowd of servants, but soon concluded that was still far from reality. To reach that point, he would have to understand the cheat's full mechanics and discover the exact level required to activate all its effects. He was already preparing to begin that new research. The protagonist began to think about what kind of zombie he should enslave in the future. There were some interesting candidates, zombies that might appear later. Even feeling that some had potential, he didn't find any of them perfect. What truly worried him was not knowing whether, once enslaved, the zombie would be able to reach the same level it had in his past life. That was something to think about later. He also remembered that many rumors spoke of treasures hidden in the Lee family's basement. Upon arriving there, he was dazzled by everything he saw, but he quickly returned to reality. In the apocalypse, jewels held no value. Paintings, on the other hand, might be useful. Unsure, he decided to keep some just in case. After destroying several objects and taking pleasure in it, he began walking around the place and realized he had never slept in such a luxurious setting. So he decided to spend the night there. However, he was taken by surprise by a powerful zombie. It was the same young man he had seen trapped inside a cage earlier. Examining the information, he realized that the zombie's body had been reinforced by the night's conditions. This temporary state elevated it to the level of a bronze-ranked boss. The protagonist was tired, yet he started talking to the zombie, as if it could understand him. After spending some time, he decided to ask the system if he could enslave the creature. The system confirmed that he could, but warned that the zombie's mentality was at level 3, which was very low. Nevertheless, the protagonist decided to proceed and activated his absolute enslavement cheat. Once the effect was applied, the zombie's demeanor completely changed. The system then asked him to give a name to his new servant. After thinking for a bit, he noticed the zombie was large and muscular, so he decided to call him Big Idiot. Now with a new ally, the protagonist tested his obedience. He asked him to bend the cage and prove he could get out easily. Big Idiot obeyed without hesitation, bending the metal with his own hands. Satisfied with the result, Luo concluded that the zombie was obedient enough to be useful. After that, he walked around the place and decided to sleep a bit. He instructed Big Idiot to guard the door and not let anyone or anything disturb his rest. The next morning, upon waking, he saw the zombie still in the same spot, alert and vigilant. He also noticed that Big Idiot hadn't eaten the corpses of the other zombies. That caught his attention. He began to suspect he was dealing with a different type of zombie. He prepared his meal as usual and began eating. Big Idiot just watched, drooling, clearly interested in the food. This was something the protagonist had never seen. He had never encountered a zombie that didn't eat human or zombie flesh, but showed interest in cooked food. He then asked the zombie to sit and eat with him. While watching the zombie eat, he thought about the stockpile of resource cards he had accumulated. Big Idiot ate very well, and might help him get rid of some excess items. This gave him peace of mind. Previously, the plan was to find Li Haobo and take revenge when reaching level 5 or 6. But now that everything was resolved and he was already level 8, he no longer needed to to enter dungeons to level up forcibly. With the equipment he had gathered and Big Idiot's help, it might already be possible to achieve the next goal, changing his profession to shadow illusion. For that, his next destination was the Mu-Do Museum, where an ancient scroll served as a key to the profession change. In his past life, he had suffered greatly because of Li Haobo. He remembered that once, he and his roommates had heard rumors about treasures hidden in the Mu-Do Museum. They decided to go together, but along the way, he received news that his ex-girlfriend was cheating on him. That destabilized him. Still, he continued with the plan, wanting to find Li Haobo and take revenge. What he never imagined was that Li Haobo had already bribed his 3 roommates. They betrayed him and planned his death. They invented a fake profession exchange so he would fail the process and end up dead. But what they didn't expect was that Luo managed to perform the exchange successfully. That left an emotional scar that stayed with him for 10 years. In his past life, this event happened on the 8th day since the Apocalypse game began. Now it was still the 4th day. This meant the museum would still be empty. Therefore, he thought this was the best time to go there. The only problem was that Big Idiot's eyes drew a lot of attention. Luo found a creative solution to avoid drawing attention with his zombie. He simply changed its clothes and put on glasses, thinking that everything was perfect. Upon arrival, they realized there were many zombies there, indicating someone had already passed through. This surprised him and made him understand he needed to be extra cautious. He quickly eliminated several zombies while moving carefully. Then he checked his inventory and found an item called Fireball Scroll, which could be used once to summon an explosive fireball dealing area damage. Suddenly, he saw Big Idiot surrounded by some zombies, which confused him. Observing closely, he realized the zombie would not take the initiative to attack, and for some reason, the surrounding zombies also did not attack him. This meant Big Idiot could approach them stealthily, even open a chest without fighting, avoiding many conflicts. But Luo still doubted whether letting the zombie open the chest would give them rewards like experience or inventory space. He decided to observe the situation first. In his past life, he remembered that on the 8th day of the apocalypse, almost all zombies in that place had been eliminated. Now, he and Big Idiot alone would struggle to handle all those monsters. He sighed, noting he still hadn't found the profession change scroll, but believed he could let Big Idiot enter the museum and search for it. It was then that he saw a group of people approaching, which could complicate things. He quickly realized that the tracks seen earlier probably belonged to them, and considered it might be better to try joining the group to avoid bigger problems. Meanwhile, inside a nearby shopping mall, a man was using a loudspeaker to announce that everything was decided. They would gather 200 people to make their own weapons. This man was named Gao Dong. Some began complaining, tired of waiting. The confusion escalated, leading to a fight, especially when a girl named Tian Ning Jing struck another boy, who became furious, saying she shouldn't act arrogantly just because she had a bronze-grade iron bar. She, however, didn't care about his words. Gao Dong decided to go down and calm everyone, asking them to stop arguing. It was at that moment that Luo appeared. He remembered seeing that group in his past life when he activated the scroll, although he didn't recall everyone's names. People started wondering who the 2 newcomers were, unaware that one was a disguised zombie. Gao Dong wanted to know Luo's name and why they were there. Luo replied that the one beside him was his brother, noting that the group had few members and asking if they could join. Gao Dong welcomed them kindly and introduced himself as the president of the Reaper Club. Luo introduced himself and said his brother was known as Big Idiot, a dumb boy who couldn't speak but served as a bodyguard. Gao Dong didn't mind and accepted both into the group easily. Soon everyone gathered around a table, and Zhao Dong asked what the 2 liked. Luo explained that they wanted to fight and grow stronger. Gao Dong liked the answer and said he had a skill book he could give them. Luo was surprised to receive it for free. The skill was called Berserk, allowing the user to enter a rage, losing consciousness, and attacking everything around. Attributes increased by 20 to 50%, but the side effect was severe. Unconsciousness lasted 2 minutes, which could be fatal if used recklessly. Gao Dong was a bit embarrassed to give such a skill, but Luo pretended to be grateful and thanked him without complaining. Upon leaving, Gao invited them to eat, but the protagonist only thought about finding zombies to level up. Even so, Gao approached and said that if he was hungry, he should eat without worry. Luo remained straightforward and preferred to leave with Big Idiot. Gao Dong had a good impression of him, thinking Luo was a decent boy since he didn't complain even after receiving a weak skill book. While walking, a man saw Luo passing by and subtly warned him not to get too close to Gao Dong, as even being strong, the consequences might not be good. Luo removed the man's arm from his shoulder and ordered Big Idiot to act. The zombie didn't wait for the conversation to end and struck the man, knocking him unconscious. The other 2 were shocked and began to retreat. They couldn't understand how a simple slap could cause such destruction. Soon after, Gao Dong appeared and wanted to know what was happening. Luo explained everything and Gao thanked him, saying it was actually a favor, as for a while no one would dare to contest the position of club president. Finally, Gao asked them to find some people to organize the burial of Jia Tai, the one who had died in the commotion. Meanwhile, Luo held a special book in his hands that allowed him to control control Big Idiot's actions even when he was in berserk mode. This was excellent, as it ensured the zombie's attribute boosts without losing control of the situation. With this in mind, he gave the book to Big Idiot, wanting him to learn it properly. Luo's plan was for the zombie to acquire the skill so that he himself could gain experience and reach level 10. Additionally, he also wanted to visit the Mo-Do library, which was a good location, and he knew the nearby game store was also there. Upon arriving at the location with the zombie, he saw several interactive panels. With around 6,000 coins in his pocket, he knew he could use 2,000 of them to buy good bronze-level equipment, especially the pants, gloves, and chest piece he was still missing. However, he was almost taken by surprise by a hand that passed through one of the panels, which worried him a lot. It was a close call. He found it strange that the store appeared intact from the outside, yet there were still zombies inside. With his sword in hand, he killed the zombie with a neck cut. After that, he found a chest, which only gave him toilet paper, a disappointing reward. Continuing his search, he passed the fallen zombies' bodies and began collecting the items they had. Among them, he found something resembling a scarecrow with a similar function, as well as a boxing glove used to deliver continuous punches. He also acquired a new sword called Ring Sword, which significantly increased his attributes. He used a fusion stone to combine this new weapon with his previous one, a process that would take about 30 minutes. During the wait, he decided to prepare a meal for himself and the zombie. When the fusion was complete, a new weapon appeared called the Demon Decapitation Sword, now classified as silver rank. The result impressed him. This sword increased speed by 20% when decapitating enemies, and a successful cut granted the player 1 strength point for 3 minutes. Excited, he decided to test the sword and went straight to the library, ordering Big Idiot not to hold back in the attack. He wanted to see the weapon in action. In the middle of the fight, he saw Big Idiot fighting with such brutality that he wondered if it was still a zombie or some humanoid beast. Still, he asked the zombie to wait on the roof while he used the bathroom. Half an hour later, with some zombies positioned on the roof, Luo ordered Big Idiot to activate berserk mode. The idea was for him to attack those zombies with the same enthusiasm as someone hunting chickens for dinner, sparing none for the next day. As Big Idiot smashed the zombies violently, Luo tried to drink tea but couldn't relax because berserk mode was so explosive. Even so, he admired how much the zombies' combat skills had improved. When the effect ended, Big Idiot was exhausted and needed to recover. Seeing his effort, Luo shared a bit of his vital energy to help him recuperate. As a result of the slaughter, the group obtained various items, including a strength increase scroll that Luo applied to a ring. The test showed that the ring worked perfectly. Feeling that they had gathered everything they could there, he decided it was time to leave. Upon opening the door, he found a completely destroyed scene and deduced that only a high-level boss could have caused such devastation. In his past life, he remembered that when he arrived there, the boss had already been killed by others. He walked to a special store that remained open for only 30 minutes and charged a high fine if customers exceeded that time. Being the first customer of the day, he received a 50% discount on the first purchase. He entered the store machine, leaving Big Idiot to guard outside. The store followed strict rules, and as in his past life, he hoped no one would disturb him during the purchase. He observed the available products, but none caught his attention. The store's distinctive feature was its ability to detect customer dissatisfaction and update its catalog. Each city had unique hidden items, so he took the opportunity to check the exclusives in Mo City. Despite the high prices, the discount made the decision easier. He chose to buy the Mo City Order uniform, which had an illusion effect capable of hiding the worn equipment, while also providing high comfort and the ability to define order within the city. Curious about the illusion effect, he activated the uniform and quickly left the store, pulling Big Idiot by the arm like a child. Now, he wanted to test the order command function on the zombie and ordered him to destroy everything in front. Luo believed the new Mo City Order uniform would allow him to give direct orders to his zombie, but soon realized the effect didn't work exactly as expected. He tried different commands, but none produced results. Only after ordering Big Idiot to kill the Mo City bookstore boss did he receive a concrete response from the system. Determined, he went to the bookstore accompanied by his enslaved zombie. Meanwhile, 2 people were hiding nearby. Suddenly, a demon appeared and tried to capture them. The boy pulled the girl and ran desperately, but unfortunately, the demon caught the young woman and completely destroyed her. The boy tried to defend her with a broom, but had no chance. When Luo arrived, he saw the final scene in which both were being devoured by the creature. He thought that after the novice protection period ended, people as fragile as them wouldn't last long in that world. He only realized the boss was present because of the noise from the fight. He soon found the first zombie that had changed profession. He realized that zombies also had evolution paths similar to humans. This particular enemy was an assassin type with high speed and rapid attacks. The crawling zombie was the bookstore boss, classified as bronze rank. It had two abilities, sharp claw attacks and the ability to camouflage in the environment with a kind of ghostly stealth. The system then gave Luo a mission involving defeating the Book Lovers, a personal revenge quest of the zombie boss, who had been wrongly accused of theft when still human. He was the former bookstore administrator, but had been killed by his companions and became a zombie during the apocalypse. Luo ensured that Big Idiot wouldn't allow other zombies to enter. When the two zombies started fighting, the protagonist worried about his ally's safety and decided to intervene. He cut the crawling zombie's arms and gave a mental warning, counting to 3 for the enemy to flee. When it didn't retreat, Luo used his double explosive strike skill and killed the zombie boss. With the enemy defeated, he began searching for a scroll. The novice mode time was ending, and being the first player to change profession would trigger a global announcement. During the search, a cheat draw was activated, and he gained a special skill called Yin and Yang Twins, allowing him to have 2 professions simultaneously. The news shocked him, but there was no time to think as a horde of zombies approached. He activated his Thorn skill and destroyed all the enemies at once. He grabbed a silver chest and decided to flee, but on the way encountered more zombies. As they were low class, he let Big Idiot deal with them. Now that he could choose 2 professions, he decided to find one that strengthened both body and mind. Unfortunately, there were no such professions in that area. His true goal was to obtain the Knight's Sacred Sword located on the other side of the world. For now, he handed a hammer to Big Idiot and continued with the plan. Upon opening the silver chest he carried, he found a new item called War Pants. As the novice period hadn't officially ended, profession changes were still blocked. Nevertheless, he began preparing to follow the Phantom Shadow class path. For the second profession, he decided to research first, while waiting for the club members to clear the museum. When the protection period finally ended, he went to the mall. He found the group and asked when they would raid the museum. They had already gathered around 200 people in the club and decided to carry out the operation that afternoon. Luo believed that if he successfully led the assault, no one would dare contest his position as president, so he made a mobilization speech to get everyone to participate. During preparations, he observed how people were treating the apocalypse as if it were just a casual game. Suddenly, a new fight broke out among the members. Gao Dong, standing next to him, seemed uncertain about the plan's effectiveness. Luo tried to encourage him, knowing this was a unique opportunity. He would use a piece of meat as bait to distract the zombies, leaving Big Idiot under the club president's care. Meanwhile, Luo began drawing the zombies' attention away, allowing the others to enter the museum safely. Outside, he handed a piece of meat to one of the boys and told him to keep running. He said he would stay behind to help contain the zombies, but deep down, he only wanted to deceive everyone. His goal was to arrive first and get the hidden scroll. He managed to reach the desired location and began punching the glass, protecting the item. As soon as he broke the protection, he grabbed the scroll and used it immediately. He was then transported into an isolated space, surrounded by numerous fireballs. Remembering his past life well, he easily found the secret passage. The system displayed a panel with instructions, revealing that there was a mysterious test inside. Luo noticed that some information was incorrect and tried to question the cheat system but received no response. Even so, he thought it was fine and decided to accept the mission. Luo started the first test by placing his hand on the orb. As he did, a mysterious force was activated, and his eyes widened at what began to happen. He was sent into an illusion, a space dominated by blood and memories of the past. In his previous life, he had relied solely on his hatred for Tao Jinghan, but that did not help him pass the trial. At that time, the test was useless to him. Now, in this new life, everything seemed different. He began to understand the true purpose of the trial and managed to overcome it clearly. A voice came from somewhere, confirming that it was enough. The first test was complete, and without delay, he was sent to the second. Luo was surprised at how quickly everything was happening. Upon entering the room for the second test, he remembered that in his past life, he had tried to face this challenge relying again on hatred, but could not endure to the end and fainted. Now, after waking in the test, he knew he had to endure until the end. A dark voice tried to convince him to give up, promising that fainting would take him directly to the third test. But he could no longer think that way. This was a new chance, and he would not waste it. During the trial, he had visions of his previous self and continued walking firmly until he found a passage. As he approached, he felt that he had reached the end of that challenge. A sensation of rebirth filled his body. He had passed the second stage and was now heading to the third and final test. In his previous life, he had received a deep scar at this moment because of someone who had hurt him. Now, he was there to seek justice and correct the past. As he entered the last test room, his sword appeared in his hands. Suddenly, a black cat appeared in the room, which he found very strange. With no time to think, the cat attacked, and he defended himself with his sword. After several combat movements, using different types of weapons, the system recognized his skill and granted him a new talent, called Combat Omnipotence, which allowed the efficient use of any type of weapon. Even with his eyes closed, he approached the enemy and managed to strike successfully. Thus, he passed the third test. As a reward, he obtained the Phantom Assassin profession scroll. Since he had not officially changed change professions yet, the system informed him that he would gain an additional level after the process. However, even after passing the test, he remained in the same place, unlike in his previous life, where he had been expelled immediately after killing the cat. He began to suspect this was related to the cheat system and also to an incomplete mission, which seemed to be activated through the true power of the scroll. Realizing he had not yet inherited this power, he decided to follow the only available clue. He saw a fissure with a faint glow and touched a painting different from the others he had seen before. With this touch, a new path opened. In the new location, he opened the scroll and saw the name Chi Yu written on it. According to legend, Chi Yu had been killed by the emperor and buried, with his head transformed into a forest of blood-red maples. It was said that ghost cats could preserve souls, and Chi Yu's soul had been maintained thanks to encounters with these ghosts. Knowing his soul would disappear, Chi Yu created the scroll so his power could be inherited in the future. The final test was to be guarded by cats with a ghostly lineage. Lord Chai had created the 3 trials to test unbreakable will, eternal perseverance, and absolute mastery in combat. Luo passed all of them with the highest performance, gaining the right to inherit the strongest power of the 9 Li tribe. He placed his hand on the revealed image and felt that he was finally confronting the true power hidden in the scroll. The system identified that he was receiving an unknown power inheritance. In response, it removed all standard blue star energy from his body and began combining this new energy with the elements of the Apocalypse game. His profession began to change. He fell to the ground, feeling extreme weakness, and the system informed him that his new profession was Soldier Lord. Originally, he had only wanted the Phantom Assassin class, but he had never expected to pass Chi Yu's complete test. He soon noticed something glowing above his hand. It was an orb, the most important item of Chi Yu. Its function was to adapt professional abilities according to the player's ideas, as well as absorb energy to enhance attributes and improve equipment. Luo was amazed to see that the item had no growth limit. Without warning, the orb jumped onto his head. It was expected that a weapon from Chi Yu would indeed be so special. After that, he was transported back to the normal world. The system displayed his new status, showing that he had now reached level 13. Luo was impressed at how much his attributes had improved. With this new power, he knew that soon he could traverse even entire groups of zombies without being threatened. In the end, the system publicly announced his achievement. He was the first player in the world to change profession, securing a unique global achievement as a pioneer. The Soldier Lord profession had a special skill related to Chi Yu, allowing the user to control the 9 Li orb and transform into any type of warrior weapon. Each time he changed form, he also acquired the skill and proficiency of that weapon. Additionally, energy could be injected into the orb to power it, and the orb still held another ability that Luo had not yet awakened. When he obtained this power, the protagonist thought he was dreaming and even pinched himself several times. He began imagining becoming invincible and decided to test the orb's capabilities. He used a common baseball bat as a test, letting the orb devour its energy. Afterwards, the orb slightly increased in size, and a silver sword called 9 Li sword appeared before him. He found it incredible and realized he could change the weapon's form easily. He tried transforming the sword into a bow and succeeded. Then he began testing weapons from all classes one by one, excited by the possibilities. He ended up using all his mental energy in the process and became exhausted, but luckily still had a recovery potion and used it to restore himself. Afterwards, he noticed he had received a new title called Pioneer, a unique title that increased all his attributes by 2 points. Even though he found the effect somewhat weak, he accepted it and moved forward. With this, he also purchased a silver rank piece of equipment. Among the acquired items was the Ghost Demon Mask. It carried evil energy and could conceal the player's basic information. The mask also had the Devil's Face ability, causing anyone who looked directly at it to enter a state of fear, reducing attributes and affecting motor coordination. Luo decided to equip the mask and then activated the draw for a new cheat. The system informed him that he could use 2 rings simultaneously, and both effects would work. After distributing his points, he decided to leave the location. Meanwhile, in the club, the atmosphere was festive. Gao was about to give a speech and announced that he wanted to introduce the club's greatest distributor, a man nicknamed Big Idiot, who at that moment was holding a chicken. It was exactly at that moment that the protagonist arrived. Gao showed relief upon seeing Luo safe, as he had been worried about his absence. Gao also informed them that about 1,500 zombies had been eliminated in the last operation, with Big Idiot handling 100 alone. They displayed the resources collected during the mission, and Gao said he still needed to speak with Luo privately. The protagonist assessed that a large group like that meant greater chances of finding equipment and also more hope of raising the 9 Li orb to diamond level. Since the club had more people, they could gather more resources. In addition, the resource cards that Luo possessed were blocked and could not be used directly. Therefore, he considered exchanging these cards for coins or equipment with the club members. Since the orb required these items items to level up. With this in mind, he decided to speak with the club president. The president acknowledged the efforts of Luo and the Big Idiot during the operation and made it clear that all Luo had to do was say what he needed. When the protagonist mentioned that he needed equipment, Gao found it curious and revealed that he had prepared a surprise for him, presenting a ring as a gift. Gao had never imagined that Luo was after equipment, so the gesture was a recognition of his contribution to the group. Shortly after, the game system updated and announced that the true apocalypse had begun. The beginner protection period had ended and the difficulty would rise drastically. New rules would be applied and the world would become harsher. Luo understood that the situation would now become as brutal as it had been in his previous life. With the changes, all players were forced to leave their homes and fight for survival. Outside, screams could be heard from all directions. Amid the chaos, the Big Idiot began to undergo a mutation. Luo was confused and sought explanations from the system, which replied that the Big Idiot's status conflicted with his evolution, but that it would be corrected. The system revealed that he would not gain a new form, but his attributes would increase by 50%. In addition, he could now acquire extra talents and change professions. This gave the protagonist an idea, as he considered helping the Big Idiot acquire a hidden profession to secure 100% inheritance of power. The system then suddenly changed, startling the protagonist. He was asked if he wanted to hide his name, as he now led China's level rankings. Luo reflected on this and decided there was no reason to hide. Observing the ranking, he noticed that his enslaved zombie was in third place. In the past, he had hidden his identity due to the danger posed by the Li family, which had caused many problems for him in his previous life. However, now that family had not yet grown strong enough to be a threat, this time he wanted to act openly. He even considered recruiting allies to help him collect equipment that could be ideal for enhancing the 9 Li sword. He also realized that he had accumulated many titles and was now better prepared to face the real apocalypse approaching. With the resources and titles he had earned, the protagonist could now safely support a small team. During this analysis, he noticed he had received an epic title called Unmatched in the World. This title increased all attributes by 10% and represented a rare achievement. Upon noticing this, he could not contain his happiness and began pacing back and forth, amazed by the magnitude of this gain. Wasting no time, he equipped the title, and immediately, his drop rate increased by over 100%. This meant he would now receive double rewards for each defeated enemy. To test this new advantage, he planned to harvest leaks from the area known as the Death Club. Upon opening the door to leave, he was surprised by a zombie, but eliminated it easily. However, he soon realized he was not alone. Other zombies were nearby, and these were of the corrosive saliva type. Faced with this, he decided to run and find an escape route. After jumping out a window, he reached a shopping mall where chaos had ensued. News that the zombies were stronger had spread, and many players were in despair. Recognizing the situation, Luo saw an opportunity. He approached the people and proposed a survival alternative. In exchange for some coins, equipment, or items, everyone would have enough food for a full day. The proposal generated an immediate and positive reaction. The players were desperate for solutions, and many eagerly accepted the offer. In a short time, he managed to gather 10,000 gold coins. Using the mask, he kept his identity hidden and began to move away until he found Gao. He approached Gao and whispered something in his ear. Gao understood the message and ran off to carry out the task. Luo hoped that Gao was intelligent enough to understand everything, but even if he failed, Luo would lose nothing. As the game's difficulty was about to increase, Luo concluded that he needed to continue accumulating coins and high-level equipment. Accompanied by the Big Idiot, he set out to eliminate more monsters and create space for the players to leave and breathe fresh air again. Meanwhile, he overheard a group discussing the idea of building their own base. They intended to charge a toll to anyone using the magic shop, and thus amass a fortune. Since the zombies in that region had already been eliminated, they believed there would be no further danger. But the protagonist preferred not to get involved with these people at that moment, and decided to open a door to check the location. As soon as he opened it, he was approached by a bearded man who questioned who they were. Another player who already knew the Big Idiot intervened, trying to calm the situation. The players quickly recognized that they were facing one of China's highest level characters. Everyone began to welcome them and show respect. They were referring to the Big Idiot, whose presence caused some fear. He even showed his hammer, which increased the others' apprehension. Luo asked his companion to calm down and decided to ignore the other players. Instead, he focused on buying items. While analyzing the available products, he acquired the Guardian emblem of Mo Du and activated the item. This emblem was a special diamond level item. Once activated, it needed to be affixed to equipment. Luo chose the ideal position and received a series of character upgrades, which he found impressive. He then went outside, where he saw some people cleaning the area and removing the zombies' bodies. Amid all this, a different energy began to form, as if a portal were emerging in that location. One of the players suggested that it could be a profession change point. A girl approached a crystal ball and wanted to know what it was. Upon touching it, it, a powerful energy enveloped her body. Suddenly, an explosion occurred, and she was thrown away, suffering some injuries. Immediately after, a gigantic level 18 zombie appeared and destroyed all the players around with a single attack. Then, the monster seemed to sense something's presence and retreated from the area. At another higher point, a group of players observed the scene. One of them warned the others not to touch the crystal ball. Meanwhile, Luo approached with the big idiot. When the group saw them, they began to retreat discreetly, trying not to be noticed. They considered Luo and his companion fools who would be killed by the giant zombie. However, upon recognizing the big idiot, they remembered he now held second place in China's ranking, with an even higher level. Still, the fact that specialists had been defeated made them uneasy, believing that not even the big idiot would prevail. Luo, however, had already realized that these three people were naive and not worth his time. He proceeded until he reached a large sphere. Immediately, he recalled that a berserk-type zombie, a boss protected by the Apocalypse Games rules, was present in that location. In his previous life, a group of mercenary hunters defeated this creature, so he did not know the exact level of the enemy's power. The system indicated that whoever defeated the berserk zombie guard boss would receive the profession change scroll. He also remembered that, in his previous life, there had been a guard boss protecting a level 4 city, who over time was raised to level 40. In the past, it was not easy to change professions or transfer to other cities. Only after the city limits were opened did this become possible. Approaching the profession change orb, the protagonist only hoped there would not be a crowd of players around. When he got close enough, he touched the orb and officially activated the Mo City profession change station. Since his team consisted of only 2 members, the system recognized this and adjusted the mission, significantly increasing the reward. The cheat system activated by Luo also kicked in, optimizing all mission-related matters. He agreed with the big idiot that he would use the magician class, while the enslaved zombie would take the warrior class, as he loved using hammers. During preparations, the protagonist encountered a bronze-ranked Titan zombie and was impressed by its attributes, which he thought matched its name. Luo accepted the mission to defeat the profession change station guard and had 24 hours to complete the objective. At the start of the combat, he used his bow to shoot an arrow at the Titan, but the monster defended itself. Its skin was thick like wood. The big idiot tried to strike with his hammer, but the attack had no effect. Luo then realized that his aim was still good, as small ice crystals began forming on the enemy's body, a sign of well-applied elemental damage. The Titan roared, and the roar was so powerful that it generated a sound wave that stunned the protagonist. Then, the monster struck the big idiot with a direct blow. Luo counterattacked with another arrow, trying to weaken him enough. Then he activated the berserk mode on the great idiot and created a lie to provoke his anger. He said that the Titan had eaten 5 chickens while he wasn't paying attention. This provocation had an immediate effect, driving the great idiot into full rage, which fully activated the berserk mode. During the fight, taking advantage of the Titan facing his ally, Luo shot an arrow from behind and hit a sensitive spot, causing significant discomfort. Even so, the Titan didn't fall and managed to knock down the great idiot. He began to tremble with rage as he realized where he had been struck and ripped the arrow out furiously, focusing entirely on Luo. Before he could reach him, the great idiot stood up and grabbed the Titan in a wrestling-like move. Once again, Luo cowardly attacked the Titan's weak spot, worsening the situation even more. The monster was already weakened, but remained dangerous. Luo fired several arrows consecutively, hoping the great idiot could dodge in time. Suddenly, an explosion occurred. The way Luo fought seemed strange, but it irritated the Titan so much that he activated the Titan bloodline and evolved. Now the enemy was a silver-rank boss. This transformation shocked Luo, as seeing a boss evolve on the brink of death was extremely rare. The Titan grew, reached level 19, and gained visible marks on his body. He also received a legendary talent that increased his strength and physical resistance by 30%. The protagonist was in shock at this new threat. He knew he would have to reinvent himself to emerge victorious. The Titan charged toward him, and even though it was hit by several arrows, its recovery was fast. Given this, Luo swapped the bow for the 9-li sword and went on the attack. Even after landing a good strike, the result was disappointing, as the Titan merely scratched the hit spot. Noticing the great idiot distracted eating a little chicken, Luo realized he couldn't rely on him. Fortunately, he had more allies. He played his trump card and summoned a combat robot along with the zombie cat. With reinforcements on the field, the situation changed. The combined attacks were effective, and the Titan was brought down. The robot contributed its strength, while the cat took the opportunity to slash the monster's body with its claws. Even on the ground, the Titan did not give up. He used a skill called Titan's Wrath, which increased his power when attacking head-on. If he escaped, his pursuit skill would increase by 50%, making it almost impossible to flee. However, one of the Titan's arms was already injured, and his speed was no longer the same. This created an opening for Luo to counterattack. After several well-placed strikes, he finally hit the Titan hard enough to defeat it. At that moment, the system detected the presence of another member on Luo's team, reducing the mission reward. 3 players appeared right at the moment of victory, descending to try to steal the rewards. Luo realized these guys were just waiting to take advantage of others' efforts. They had watched the fight and decided to appear only at the end, hoping to take credit for the silver-rank boss's defeat. The protagonist immediately understood their intentions and knew he would still have to deal with this new problem. The girl was shocked to see how those people had the audacity to show up, even after letting the Titan be killed without doing anything. Even with the previous warning, she was still threatened by them. Then, the group approached Luo with flattery, praising his size and claiming they were big fans. They wanted to know how they could help him, but Luo decided to end that falseness. He questioned if they had really been hiding, waiting for everything to finish before showing up. This embarrassed everyone. Before anyone could explain, Luo attacked with his sword, as he thought all of them were hypocrites. He hated people like them. With the survivors still around, Luo used the ability of his devil mask, causing fear in those present. Panicked, everyone began fighting over the scraps on the ground. The number of members quickly decreased, which meant the rewards no longer had to be divided. The few remaining began treating him as China's hero and said it was their duty to help him. But one of them showed a threatening tone. Luo didn't hesitate and struck with his sword, silencing everyone. He wanted everyone to remember that his name was Jia Yi and that no one would use him. He was neither moral nor a hero. Anyone who provoked him would face the consequences. To him, anyone who tried to blackmail him with morality speeches was useless. He would never forget when the Li family hunted him and no one came to help. At that moment, he definitively finished the Titan. As a result, he received a unique global title for being the first player to kill a silver-rank boss. The rewards were doubled. Upon opening the golden chest, he found a pen and a scroll. He wrote his name on the scroll and completed the mission to activate the profession change at Mo City Station. As a reward, he received several weapons at once. Next, he went to the Great Idiot and tried to wake him up by offering a chicken drumstick. Suddenly, a rift began to open in the sky. People who had not been killed by Luo didn't understand what was happening. The game system was giving a global bonus because of the victory against the boss. A huge explosion occurred, and all players leveled up. Many became fans of Jia Yi. Everyone was excited while Luo observed the system messages. He had reached level 16, surpassing even the beginner protection period. He wanted to remain discreet, but knew this was now impossible. As usual, he went to collect the reward first. Examining the Sovereign's scroll, he saw he would gain 4 strength points and 3 physical points per level. His skills included the strength to move mountains and unstoppable strength. He concluded that this profession would be very useful. The system also informed him that he had unlocked level 1 auto collection and information interference, with the auto collection cheat advancing to level 2. Luo thought these skills would be useful in future boss battles. He also received silver starter equipment, including hidden magic armor and hidden magic pants. Since the attributes were better, he equipped the items, significantly increasing his stats. After that, he decided to draw 2 cheats and won 2 titles, but neither surpassed the incomparable title. Even so, he was satisfied to have obtained the sovereign profession. Luo then asked the system to buy 2 silver-rank pieces of equipment, hoping luck would be on his side. However, he received common and useless items for both him and the Great Idiot. He organized his inventory and opened the gold chest he had found earlier. Inside was Hua Chang's watermelon knife, a gold-rank equipment, along with the fresh watermelon skill, which applied a scary effect for 2 seconds and reduced enemy attributes by 10%. Despite finding the name embarrassing, he recognized the skill was useful. Knowing he couldn't waste time, Luo decided not to rest. Only 24 hours remained, and he needed to seize the opportunity. He drank a recovery potion, called the Great Idiot, and told him it was time to work. For every 20 zombies defeated by his companion, he would be rewarded with a roasted chicken. The protagonist went to the street and soon encountered a zombie with a large belly, which surprised him. He eliminated the creature in the blink of an eye, while the Great Idiot swung his hammer against a row of zombies. At the same time, several people gathered to observe the equipment ranking, and everyone noticed the protagonist dominating the top 6 positions. Among them were the heads of the Yun and An families, who began discussing it. Even Li Haobo's father, the head of the Li family, was present and asked the young man from the An family to take the meeting seriously, as he was joking too much. The An family young man mocked the head of the Li family, saying his children were useless. The Yun family head asked everyone to stop the conflicts, as the focus should be on the protagonist. No one knew that name before, and he doubted that anyone so discreet had grown so strong in such a short time. The Li family head said it was necessary to find that player and discover his true identity, believing the name used was just a disguise. The Yin family head said the apocalypse apocalypse was a unique chance to become independent and dominate the world. If the protagonist wasn't useful to them, they could at least take his equipment. Some leaders pondered the proposal. Meanwhile, the protagonist was isolated in a part of the city, focused on increasing his orb. He saw various people on the streets trying to level up by fighting zombies. At one point, he recognized a young man who had been number one in his previous life, but was now progressing very slowly. It was then that the protagonist realized how much his rebirth had impacted the world. Even with everything changing, he knew that if he had enough strength, he could face anything. So he decided to upgrade all his equipment at once. After that, he took a bath and went to sleep. During the night, a gigantic rat emerged from the toilet. The mutation had made the animal enormous, and it attacked the protagonist without hesitation. Luo reacted quickly and killed the rat, but the creature's body fell on the bed, covering everything in blood. As if that wasn't enough, a legion of rats appeared on the streets, attacking people who were trying to kill zombies to level up. Luo heard a noise and suspected that a horde of zombies or mutant animals was approaching. He decided to investigate the surrounding area. Soon he heard a very loud sound and saw a large horde of rats moving in formation, as if led by a zombie boss. He understood that this night would bring a difficult battle and that he couldn't stay idle. Quickly, he set out with the Great Idiot. There were many rats outside, but fortunately, they weren't chasing him. Luo thought that if he could kill the horde's leaders, he would gain good rewards. However, since there were many enemies and he only had one life, he decided to act cautiously. He left the Great Idiot waiting and went alone to check the rats' destination. He followed them to a house where the horde seemed to gather. Suddenly, the noise stopped, leaving him confused. He called the Great Idiot, thinking it was time to act again. Soon after, he heard the sound of crows in the sky and became concerned, as he couldn't face such a large number at once. The rat horde then started moving again, and the protagonist found it strange to see rats and birds coexisting peacefully. They entered a mansion in an orderly manner. This seemed absurd, and the protagonist wanted to understand what was wrong with that place. He went down to investigate more closely and saw that various zombified animals had gathered, including a bear. Even zombified, a bear's destructive power was something to be taken seriously. All these animals entered a mysterious portal. The protagonist decided to wait. After everyone disappeared, he began investigating and confirmed that the area had been completely evacuated. He realized that this was the right moment for him and the Great Idiot to act. He approached the portal and suddenly received a system notification informing him that it was an unknown dungeon. In the apocalyptic world, there were two types of dungeons. The first served for battles between players. The second transported the player to another location and offered a mission based on their skills and attributes. In his previous life, Luo had faced many dungeons and gained a lot of experience. Now, with the cheats he possessed, he thought he would have no major difficulties. The system warned him that he could enter and exit the dungeon whenever he wanted, with no pressure. With that, he decided to enter. Since the Great Idiot had no cheats to assist him, the protagonist thought it best to leave him resting safely outside. He entered the dungeon alone and soon found a hollow part in the wall. Without thinking much, he cut the area with his sword. He realized he was in a legendary dungeon where he needed to find the exit of a maze full of traps and hidden zombified animals. Despite thousands of paths existing, only one led to the end. Shortly after, he discovered that he had activated a special entry method called the teleport gate. This meant that the maze had not officially opened yet, making everything much more dangerous. Animals would appear gradually, and the player could not feel fear. Even with the mission limiting equipment effects, he still held his 9-Li sword and could use his abilities normally. As soon as he entered, the dungeon adjusted to his combat level. While walking, a flaming arrow appeared suddenly, and he could only protect himself with his sword. That defense was already difficult, but soon after, several other arrows appeared at the same time. Fortunately, he found a hidden passage, which startled him. From that point on, he decided to trust only his intuition and memory to advance. He found a door and started knocking. When he opened it, a huge rat jumped toward him. Even so, a rat was not a problem for him. Inside the room, there was a food card, and he took the opportunity to have a meal. After that, he continued exploring and always chose to go to the right. At one point, he narrowly avoided a type of acid flying toward him. The door he opened contained some zombified rat until he encountered a rat boss. After defeating it, he paused to reflect. Up to that point, Crossroads always offered 3 paths. 2 led to dead ends, and the third always contained traps, while another sometimes had nothing. He suspected that behind certain doors, there were random zombified animals. With this, he began analyzing probabilities and thought that door 002 might contain 2 zombie bosses. It was at that moment that he understood why the maze was was so desperate. There was no sense of progress. With every step, he felt he was heading toward failure. Enemies grew stronger in each room, and traps became more dangerous. When he entered the next door, there were exactly 2 zombified animal bosses, as he expected. He managed to defeat both and was rewarded with an agility fruit. In addition, he received a support card that created traps, so he used it to open a hole that caused several zombified cats to fall. It was the 3rd day he had been trapped in that maze. On the 4th day, he managed to strengthen his 9-Li sword, which improved all the weapons he possessed. With this, he began eliminating lower-ranked zombified animals much more easily. He faced 3 bronze-ranked bosses at the same time and won. Meanwhile, in Mo City, other players continued leveling up, and even a girl managed to change her profession. As the protagonist was absent, many began to suspect he had disappeared or died. However, he was still at the top of the level rankings. Back in the dungeon, he exploded a zombie he considered shameful, and after killing a zombie cow boss, he reached level 20. Without wasting time, he decided to draw a new cheat. He obtained a cheat called Eye of Discernment, which revealed hidden information about living beings. Now he could see zombies' weaknesses and even details about other players. He considered this skill powerful, but realized it would make him even more solitary. Then he began fusing various items and moved to door number 41. There he saw a group of crows and used the Eye of Discernment to find their weaknesses. He then eliminated all of them with precision and drew a yin-yang symbol on a piece of paper. Soon after, he reached a dead end. This gave him a bad feeling. He thought everything was too easy and realized that something bigger was about to happen. He advanced more cautiously. Upon opening a new door, he felt intense energy in the air. A flash filled the area, and he saw the same yin-yang symbol on the floor. He had finally found the maze's exit. As a reward, he received a random draw of 2 cheats, but decided not to use them yet. In addition, he obtained the source of fire and the source of water, as well as a rare item called the Key of Rupture, which had a unique use and could open a force barrier equivalent to its energy for 10 seconds. The protagonist thought everything seemed simple, but he still knew he needed to act cautiously. He decided to test the source of fire, creating flames with his own hands. Then he tested the source of water, and found it strange that neither had any description. Suspicious, he chose to investigate the room further and ended up finding a new scroll. Upon opening it, he discovered that the place allowed a profession change and granted skills related to the 8 trigrams. For him, this was a very welcome surprise. Upon touching the central item in the room, he saw an intense light envelop him completely. His body was surrounded by an energy resembling a cocoon, while constellations formed around him. This gave him a new profession, the Green Emperor, and activated his equipment that awaited the union of fire and water elements. If he could fully develop these new abilities, he believed he would become invincible. Suddenly, the entire structure began to collapse, forcing the protagonist to leave the dungeon as quickly as possible. When he finally emerged, he grabbed his phone and was shocked to see that he had spent 2 weeks inside the dungeon. In front of him, the great idiot awaited, visibly weakened by hunger after so many days without eating. Meanwhile, Zhang Yuanzheng, who in his previous life had been the strongest player, was enthusiastically fighting zombies. He believed he was on the same level as Jia Yi, but upon checking the rankings, he was surprised to see that the protagonist had already reached level 20. The system began announcing the protagonist's achievements globally, praising his accomplishments. Luo checked his stats and saw that he was becoming increasingly powerful. He now also possessed an 8 trigrams pendant, which contained the energy of the 8 main elements. With this, he had balanced attributes, 2 high-quality professions, and the ability to learn countless skills. Even with all this, the great idiot was not in good condition due to hunger. Though he had reached level 16, the protagonist then ordered him to try to turn all of that into strength. After the attempt, Luo concluded it wasn't a bad thing, and decided to go out to explore. He noticed that other players were also receiving global announcements, which surprised him as he realized that while he had been trapped in the maze, others were also striving. The special city event was activated when 30% of local players surpassed level 10. This triggered a combat skill competition in a designated location. Luo thought it would be fun to level up alongside the great idiot. They encountered various zombies on the streets. Excited, the great idiot used his stone armor and hammer to crush enemies with great force. Meanwhile, Luo opened a fireball scroll and began training the new skill. After some time, he mastered the attack efficiently, which led the system to reward him with another scroll. Knowing that Mo City had many magical scrolls, he thought that shops in other cities must also offer good items. So he decided that in the future he could visit these shops and buy whatever he needed. As a token of gratitude, he gave a chicken drumstick to the great idiot, who was starving. Meanwhile, he wondered how the other cities were faring. In Jing City, controlled by the Li family, several people were gathered. They believed that being among the top 3 was not enough. They wanted to reach the top and ensure everyone remembered the Li family. They considered Zhang Yuanzhong an obstacle, so the 3 major families planned to work together. The head of the Li family thought that if Zhang were smart, he would not oppose them. He was determined to achieve first place at any cost. After the meeting ended, the head called Shijing Shan and asked him to investigate why Rong Zhan had not yet appeared on the ranking. Then he used a secret passage to follow his plans. Meanwhile, the protagonist was still in Mo City. In the urban area, he was blowing up several zombies with his fireballs. He carefully distributed his attribute points and moved toward the city boundary. There, he noticed that the protective barrier was active. He then used the key of rupture he had obtained earlier to pass through the barrier and head toward Jing City. A portal appeared before him, resembling a black hole. Upon passing through it, he arrived at an isolated location. There was only a simple building that looked like an empty room. The system informed him that he had broken some rules but had still managed to advance to the city at the current stage. He was confused by this, as both he and the Great Idiot were trying to be sent to Jing City. Suddenly, the system accepted the request and sent both of them directly to the city boundary. Upon arrival, they realized the area was filled with zombies and needed to fight together to survive. After leaving a pile of undead behind, the protagonist started running and entered the sewers with the Great Idiot. They hid quickly, but the Great Idiot's poor coordination caused him to fall into the water. The protagonist decided to let him rest for a while. Increasing his attributes, he felt more confident. He even obtained a new item, a small space ring, and thought it was great that the Great Idiot could now store some food and supplies. Once the zombie chaos subsided, the two began moving through the city until someone recognized the protagonist and called him Great Shot. This person wanted to know if he would participate in the event, and Luo confirmed. The young man looked around and explained that the event would determine the future of Jing City. Luo didn't fully understand, but the young man mentioned that his childhood friend was a security officer for one of the 3 main families and had returned yesterday to pick up his sister. He had gathered the group and encouraged them to get motivated. In Luo's previous life, Jing City was the first to be pacified in China. While other cities were still struggling between life and death, the players in Jing City were already hunting zombies, and the ranking that determined the right to speak was formed by the 3 major families and other organizations. The protagonist thought it was already time to act and saw that everything still resembled what had happened before. If so, there were many possibilities. However, he found it strange that a simple guard had access to such confidential information and suspected a trick. He decided to pretend to believe him and rewarded the guard for the information with some resource cards. Each card cost 90 coins, and the young man became very excited. He handed over the 270 coins he had and completed the transaction. Then a girl suddenly appeared, saying she also wanted to buy a card. Luo proposed selling to everyone for 95 coins, provided the guard agreed, and all accepted. Since he had already lost the Mo City Honor Badge, he now wanted to obtain the Jing City Honor Badge. A young man warned the chief that they were in trouble. They summoned about 30 specialists with advanced professions, believing that the Great Idiot was strong but couldn't face them all. The chief became irritated and stabbed a blonde man for disappointing him. He also wanted to know who the protagonist was, as the Great Idiot followed him willingly. The guard from earlier returned and asked if Luo planned to move around at night. He explained that some zombies had been exhausted, but many were still nearby, and he knew a safe place for him to stay. Suddenly, several people appeared, and the protagonist counted 32. He thought they were all thieves, angry that he had sold so many resource cards. They demanded that he hand over half of his earnings that night as well as all remaining cards, so they could forget the incident. The protagonist didn't like this at all, and quickly drew his sword. He didn't want to waste time with them, and activated Berserk mode in the Great Idiot, who began knocking down several with his hammer, leaving everyone furious. Using his water ability, the protagonist enveloped everyone's weapons and made them explode. Everyone got wet, and he asked if they still intended to continue. Without hesitation, he decided to attack everyone at once. The strikes were lethal, and the deaths happened quickly. The survivors realized he was too strong and impossible to confront. One tried to escape, but Luo wouldn't allow it. The bearded man was still around, and the protagonist wanted to know if he had anything to say. The others begged not to be killed. Luo decided to spare them and began speaking about himself, referring to himself as Li Hao Bo. He said he did not lie, and that if he brought someone along, that person's entire family could fall into misery. However, if everyone paid a fair price, he would let them live. Everyone handed over their savings. The bald, bearded man tried to leave slowly, trembling, but the protagonist noticed and made it clear that he too had to pay. Seeing the situation, the protagonist ordered the Great Idiot to kill everyone. The survivors survivors panicked, and a hooded man believed that Jing City's situation would change. He grabbed a weapon and fired it into the air. The protagonist realized he might have annoyed someone dangerous. Later, in the safe zone of Jing City, Luo arrived with his enslaved zombies and was surprised to see that the zone had been built in just 1 month. He remembered that entering the safe zone required presenting a real identity, which could expose both him and the Great Idiot. An hour later, they finally reached the location and entered discreetly. The Great Idiot was tasked with obtaining a complete map of the city. With the map in hand, the protagonist discovered that the individual combat tournament would be held at the Jing Gym and decided this would be the first place they should visit. On the way, several people were commenting on Zhang Yuanzhong, who had received the title of general. Hearing this, Luo approached and asked who was responsible for betting on this type of event. He discovered that it was all handled in a red building directly across from the gym and decided to go there. Only 3 hours remained until Jing City's individual combat tournament began, and he intended to place his bets before it started. At the location, the vendor asked how many lottery tickets he wanted to buy. The protagonist decided to buy 3 tickets, betting that Zhang Yuanzhong would finish in 3rd place. He placed so much money on the table that the vendor was completely shocked. Others nearby began commenting on him, suspecting he was there just to cause trouble. Many thought he would lose all the money bet, believing the general would win the tournament. To complete the bet, he also had the zombie contribute a large amount, and together they totaled 40,000 gold coins. After that, he pressured the vendor to expedite the process, as the tournament was about to begin. He entered the gym and was able to see the participants' entrance. Among them, he finally saw Zhang Yuanzhong up close. At that moment, Jing City's individual combat tournament officially began.